feel out of control or swamped by emotions. You may feel stressed. The problem with stress is that it affects your learning in lots of different ways. It affects your attention, it affects your memory, and therefore it affects your performance. You have to find ways of managing your emotions, effective ways of de-stressing. It could be yoga, it could be listening to music, it could be taking exercise, whatever works for you. Sean struggled with reading difficulties until he was in his 40s and lived under constant stress.
I was under so much stress that I started to realise that I had to do something or else I was going to explode, basically. I don't even remember how I heard about adult literacy. And do you know something? I knew that was the answer, but it was the last place I wanted to go for that answer because of the stigma of illiteracy. It was okay to have a reading problem there. That it wasn't, I had a reading problem, and just because I said I had a reading problem, it was okay to have it, and that they saw the problem, and they said, fine, that's it, it was okay. And it actually was the first time in my life that in all of my learning, that I was ever accepted as being all right, being the way I was. When I left school in 1963, my ambition was to go to university and get a degree. And because I couldn't read, I couldn't do it. So eventually I got the opportunity. When I made a decision to go back to college, I spoke to the people in the college, and I was given an understanding there that they were setting up this special learner support unit. They'd be able to help me, to show me how to learn, help me with essays, help me with, not the content of the essay, but show me how to write an essay, show me how to kind of get grammar right, or to how to present work. So I didn't feel too uncomfortable. The pressure of essays isn't great, and the exams are actually, the stress of them at my age are disastrous. But having said that, it's worth it because I want to prove something to myself as well.
To learn and get ahead, you need to persevere. And if your first attempt is not successful, well then you need to try again. This is one of the core elements in emotional intelligence, because if you allow yourself to be crippled by any initial lack of success, well then you'll never get ahead. People always tend to overgeneralize about the failures in their past. You might hear someone say, I never learned to read in school, so there's no point in me going back to class now because I'll never learn. Don't concentrate on the negatives in your past. Instead, look to the future possibilities. Now, one of the most useful items you can have when it comes to looking up the meaning or spelling of a word is a dictionary. And here's some handy tips on how to use one.
Now, one of the most useful items you can have in looking up the meaning and spelling of a word is a dictionary. Here are some tips on using one. A dictionary is essentially a book of words arranged in alphabetical order, which gives the meaning of those words. For example, when we look up the word dictionary, it says, a book containing the words arranged alphabetically with explanations of their meanings. Let's look up the word right. Because a dictionary is organised alphabetically, you go to words beginning with W, which are near the end. Then WR, WRI, and scan down to WRITE. To form letters, words or symbols on a surface such as paper with an instrument such as a pen. But there is another word with the same sound, right. Let's look it up. Words beginning with R are between words beginning with Q and words beginning with S. After finding these, next go to RI, then RIG, and here it is, RIGHT. There are two definitions for right: to be correct or on the opposite side to the left. So if you come across a new word and you're unsure of its meaning, look it up in the dictionary. After a year of literacy classes and a lot of personal effort over the following 12 years, Sean did learn to read, but his literacy difficulties had taken their toll.
Looking back on my life, the problems I had from reading at a very early stage was to structure how my life went. I had little or no confidence in myself as a result. I saw myself as a failure because I was a reading failure. I had an expectation that if I learned to read, I would be able to redress that problem. But on learning to read, it didn't do so. When I saw that I was able to read and my self-esteem wasn't coming up, I began to realise that there's something here. So I started to read a lot of self-help books. Sometimes I nearly cursed the reading for only exposing more sores. But in fairness, in exposing the sores, they found the cure. I found that there was nothing to be found there. So I had to take time out with myself. And I started to spend very much of my time in nature, on my own, pondering life. And nature was an ideal environment for it because I wasn't, there were no people there. There was nobody that I had to put on a show for. I could be totally myself. And after spending a couple of hours on my own, maybe I could be myself for 5 or 10 minutes when I came out of it. And gradually the experience of myself made me feel better about myself. Finding out who I was absolutely vital to me in living my life. I don't think I could have had any peace of mind whatsoever had I not done that journey. Painful and all as it was, and difficult and all as it was. Because at the end of it, the only person I really have is myself, and if I can't live with myself, it's a very uncomfortable place to be. And to be honest with it, right now, I am happy to be who I am. I'll give myself that one.
Optimism is a factor in how successful you are in life. Basically, it's how you explain your failures and your successes to yourself. If you're an optimist, you tend to look on failure as being due to something that can be changed, whereas pessimists take the blame for failures.
You change your brain as much as your brain changes you. It's a fact that when you're in happy mood, you're much better at solving intellectual and practical problems. Studies have shown that if you listen to happy music, or if you go to see some uplifting theatre, or if you read positive sentences like, "Life is pretty good at the moment," then you do create changes in your brain. Now, if you do want to go to the theatre, or the cinema, or to a soccer stadium, you need to be able to read one of these. It's a seating plan. This is a typical seating plan for a theatre, concert hall, cinema, or sports stadium. When booking seats, it's good to know where you'll be sitting. And here's how you find out. Let's say your seats are in the balcony, numbers X11 and X12. Firstly, you look for the section you are in. So in this case, that's the balcony. Then you find row X, and then scan along it until you find numbers 11 and 12. Or maybe your seats are in the main auditorium, row E, numbers 22 and 23. First, we find the main auditorium, then row E, and then scan along to seats 22 and 23. Another place that uses a plan is a department store or shopping centre. They use plans to help you to find a particular department or shop. Have a look next time you're out and about for more examples of plans. If you would like some help with anything we've covered in the programme, call 1800 20 20 65. There's a team of specially trained tutors standing by to take your call, Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's free and confidential, so call now. Terry, I can't get over this place. It's amazing.
And not just this room, Derek. All of it is utterly fantastic. Sorry I missed you for coffee earlier, but I did get your note.
Don't worry about it. How did you get on?
Oh, absolutely brilliant. I'll tell you about it. Why don't we recap over what we both did today?
Good idea. Now, one of the first things we looked at was the traditional IQ test. This test is used to measure intelligence, but only measures strictly academic intelligence and is not a good indicator of success in life.
We looked at the difference between 2- and 3-dimensional shapes. 2D shapes have 2 dimensions, length and width. Some examples of 2D shapes are a square, triangle, and circle. 3D shapes have 3 dimensions, length and width, but also height. Some examples of 3D shapes are cylinders, cones, and spheres.
We did an overview of the theory of multiple intelligence, which tells us that people learn differently and have many and varied abilities. For example, some have got good music intelligence, some have got good language intelligence, and some have got very good people skills. So rather than looking at how smart you are, look at how you are smart.
And while there's no strict format for writing an informal letter, we took a look at how it's done. An informal letter or note should be simple and get straight to the point. Start with a simple greeting, for example, "Hi Jane," and then get straight to the point with brief, accurate information. The sign-off is also kept short. For example, "Thanks, Michael," or "All the best, Hannah." So if you're writing an informal note, don't worry about spelling, punctuation and handwriting. Just get your message across.
Two forms of intelligence are particularly important for us to have: social intelligence and emotional intelligence. In other words, good self-knowledge and good knowledge of other people. These skills are very important for general happiness and success in life.
We also saw how useful it is to learn how to use a dictionary for looking up spellings and for the meaning of words. A dictionary is used to look up the spelling or meaning of a word. It's a book of words in alphabetical order. To look up a word, for example, dictionary, you must first look for words beginning with D, then DI and DIC, until you come to the word you're looking for, dictionary. Some words with the same spelling have more than one meaning. For example, right can mean to be correct or the opposite side to the left.
We looked at how we all experience stress from time to time, particularly when we're swamped by our emotions. Stress can affect your learning in different ways. It can affect your memory, your attention, and your performance.
It's useful to know how to read a plan if you want to get the best seats when you're booking theatre tickets or a sporting event or any venue that has a seating plan.
To find your seats, you must first look for the section you were seated in. For example, the balcony, then the row, say X, and finally the seat number, number 11. Or if you were in the auditorium, in row E, seats 22 and 23. A plan can also be used in shopping centres and department stores.
We looked at the need to learn to persevere. If you allow yourself to be crippled by what you consider to be your failures, you will never move on. Don't read too much into every negative.
That's it for this week. Next week we're in Croke Park.
And at the National Museum in Collins Barracks, where we'll be looking at memory, the keystone for learning.
So until then,
from us,
goodbye.